to come. Prologue. 8th of December, 1980. It was almost 11 p.m. in New York City, and singer-songwriter James Taylor was at home in the exclusive Langham building on Central Park West. He'd just placed a call to Betsy Asher, whose husband had signed him to the Beatles' Apple label 12 years earlier. She was in Los Angeles, and she was complaining that things were getting very crazy there, Taylor recalled. Something was happening to do with the Charles Manson family, something mad going on. Then I heard these shots. I'd been told that the police would leave an empty chamber under the hammer of their guns, so when you heard a police shooting, it would be 5 shots of a large-caliber weapon in rapid succession to empty the gun. What I heard was bam, 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 bam. 5 shots. I said to Betsy, "You think it's crazy out there? I'm just listening to the police shooting somebody down the street." We rang off. Then about 20 minutes later, she called me back and said, "James, that wasn't the cops." The police were on the scene in minutes. A news crackled across the radio of a shooting outside the Dakota building, a block downtown from the Langham. The press agency UPI wired the initial reports. New York police say former Beatle John Lennon is in critical condition after being shot 3 times at his home on Manhattan's Upper West Side. A police spokesman said a suspect is in custody, but he had no other details. A hospital worker said, quote, "There's blood all over the place. They're working on him like crazy." ABC TV trailed the bones of the story across the screen as the New England Patriots visited Miami Dolphins on Monday Night Football. 5 minutes later, commentator Frank Gifford interrupted his colleague Howard Cosell. "I don't care what's on the line, Howard. You've got to say what we know in the booth." "Yes, we have to say it," Cosell said wearily, adding a warning that sounded almost sacrilegious in his sports-obsessed country. "Remember, this is just a football game, no matter who wins or loses." Then, with the portentous cadence of a man accustomed to translating sporting contests into drama, Cosell announced, "An unspeakable tragedy, confirmed to us by ABC News in New York City. John Lennon, outside of his apartment building on the west side of New York City, the most famous perhaps of all the Beatles, shot twice in the back, rushed to Roosevelt Hospital." He hit each word slowly and carefully, like a nail into wood. "Dead on arrival." Hard to go back to the game after that news flash. Richard Starkey and his girlfriend, actress Barbara Bach, were drinking in a rented house in the Bahamas when he was contacted by his secretary, Joan Woodgate. "We got some phone calls saying that John had been injured," he recalled. "Then we heard he was dead." He was the first of the surviving Beatles to learn the news. "John was my dear friend, and his wife is a friend, and as soon as you hear something like that..." Horror pierced the anesthetic haze of alcohol that had become his protection against the world. You don't just sit there and think what to do. It was just we had to make a move, and we had to go to New York. First, Starkey phoned his former spouse, Maureen Cox, in England. Her houseguest, Cynthia Lennon, was woken by screams. Seconds later, Cox burst into her bedroom and told her, "Cyn, John's been shot. Ringo's on the phone. He wants to talk to you." Cynthia rushed to the phone and heard the sound of a man crying. "Cyn," Starkey sobbed, "I'm so sorry. John's dead." She dropped the phone and howled like an animal caught in a trap. George Harrison's elder sister Louise had just retired to bed in Sarasota, Florida, when she was phoned by a friend telling her to turn on her TV. "My first thought was that something was wrong with George," she recalled. "When I heard, I felt 2 things. A wave of relief that George was okay, and horror at what had happened to John." She immediately tried to phone her brother at Friar Park, his unfeasibly expansive Gothic mansion in Henley, but nobody answered. They kept the phone under the stairs in those days, she remembered, because George didn't like to be disturbed by it. For the next 2 hours she dialed the number again and again, but heard nothing but the endless bleat of the ringing tone. Around 5 a.m. UK time, an hour after the shooting, the BBC